The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Coming up tonight, presenting a budget communication that's billed to, most importantly, ease the cost of living for Bahamians, strengthen emergency response services, and make training available for men, youth, and adults wishing to shift careers, all in an effort to have Bahamians play more meaningful roles in the economy. Tonight, we go in depth on the 2025-2026 budget communication. Meanwhile, the FNM says the budget Prime Minister Davis presented simply doesn't cut it. Also tonight, the Hot Topics panel joins me to rate the budget and the plans announced today. This is Beyond the Headlines. Good evening. I'm Shanique Miller. It's great to have you along this evening. Well, Prime Minister Davis delivered a budget that will pave the way for the next general election and says to Bahamians just how the Davis administration has been managing the economy. Some say hearing of an historic balanced budget is encouraging, and a surplus points to new money through investments coming into the country and shows promise. Beyond the Headlines is going to focus in on the areas that impact the quality of your daily lives throughout the budget debate, which begins next week. Now, this evening, the chairman of Beaches and Parks, as well as Mount Moriah MP Mikel Bonnaby, joins me to flesh out what the Prime Minister had to say and what he announced today. Good evening to you, Mr. Bonnaby. It's good to have you here. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. I'm really excited, as many people are, to hear more about this.
Well, good to be here. And before we proceed, I'd just like to say that I'm a big fan of your show, and I think you've been doing a fantastic job.
Oh, thank you so much.
Fantastic job.
Thank you. You see why he's welcomed. I'm just happy to have him here, right? Thank you so much. I'll tell you, people are watching all over the nation this evening to hear more from you. And so we're going to jump right in. Let's get started with news that this administration, for the first time in the history of our nation, this one is quite significant, presented a balanced budget. How significant is this, and what does it mean?
Well, it means that the decisions that we would have made as an administration, the Davis-led administration, from 2021 to now, when we met the debt service ratio at 103% to now standing at 72%, from 2021 to 2022, 23, 24, and 25, have made prudent decisions, pragmatic decisions, which has led to us having a surplus, the first surplus in the history of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, which is outstanding.
I want to say that does this sort of vindicate, and we're going to move forward from this, but I had to ask this because other people said it as well. In fact, a frequent viewer in Grand Bahama says, Shanique, but wait a minute. We see now why the Prime Minister's been traveling so much.
Right.
You know, he was hit for that, this administration, hit for all of the traveling and the expenditure, the travel budgets. Does this sort of vindicate how this has all turned out?
The numbers speak for itself, and obviously it shows that we have steady leadership. We have steady hands at the helm of our economy. The Prime Minister has proven through this budget and several other activities that he has made a positive impact based on the decisions that the administration would have made. And I say we cannot just look at things myopically. I said there's more to just travel. I said when we talk about travel, let's expand that. Let's talk about 10 million tourists. That's also travel. Let's talk about airports being built, that's travel. Let's talk about runways being paved, that's travel. Let's talk about it. Let's have a full-fledged conversation on travel. We are an island nation. We have to do business abroad.
Right.
And we have to send our best and our brightest and our sharpest, and the Prime Minister is that. he's the first amongst equals.
Well, you mentioned an island nation and airports, and there's a lot that's been announced in the budget communication because aviation is also a key feature. But I want to talk to Bahamians tonight about how this really is going to affect them and their bottom line almost immediately in September. In fact, prominently featured is this theme in the budget communication today, easing the burden of inflation that so many people still feel and still want just a further easement of. Let's look at some areas. For example, the lower duty on household essentials. For example, we saw appliances and a number of things on that list. Let's talk about that and the what's going to be cut or stripped from that and the duty.
A wise man once said, "You cannot grow your way out of a depression." We're not in a depression, but it can feel that way at times. You have to grow your way out of a depression. And we have to grow our way out of the financial constraints in which we find ourselves. And so the government, in line with that, has taken several steps, in my humble opinion, which was one of the first things we did is find work for our people. And work is, you can look at the line items and see that there is a lot of capital work being done throughout the country. And the Prime Minister made it his business to ensure that not only are we're no longer Nassau-centric, because the pain is felt all throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And so we're focusing on every single island. We are expanding the opportunities.
Yes, and really, people want to hear this. This here got people's attention as well. Baby products that are going to be lowered on VAT, feminine hygiene. This that I found is hugely important, major in many households. Butane fuel, that is going to be the 45% duty on that is no longer exists as of September.
What we're doing is we're reaching our people exactly where they are, and we're giving them the hand up that they actually need. And so you can see, when you are tackling wage issues, when you're tackling issues such as financial constraints, you have to start on the inside. And so what we've done is found people exactly where they are, and we started to bring the relief where they are.
Yeah, it's hugely important to kind of bring those because those are everyday things people need.
Right.
Medication even is going to get a break.
So when you look at the situation and where we found the country, and I want us to expand the conversation not just to those items, but to a broad approach that the government would have taken. Accessibility to healthcare.
Yeah.
That's a large one. And so how do you improve access to healthcare? You do so by creating and building more hospitals. And that's what we've done. And so that's another way of lowering the cost of living. Because if you have to pay for healthcare, because the healthcare system is broken, then you spend more money. You can also see that we've done that in the agriculture as well.
But I want to talk about food security, which is incredibly
I won't get ahead of you.
I know, right? Which is another thing that's very important to the Bahamas, to the region. We all know we heavily depend on the United States. These tariff wars that's still trying to work themselves out is having an impact. And with, I guess, foresight, the Prime Minister and another team is looking at alternative measures on bringing and importing food, but also first shoring up agriculture here in the country.
The Prime Minister spoke to it today in the House of Assembly. Let's give an example of the price of eggs that were $10 a carton, and they're now down to $3. Your policies have to impact the everyday person, the everyday Bahamian. That is at the core of your economy. And so accessibility to lower cost of food, which also creates food security for this country. And so we could have decided to kick the can down the road, but it's something that we decided to approach in this particular term. And I think the Bahamian people are feeling it. While waiting in the waiting room, I heard people talking about it, celebrating what they would have heard today.
Yes.
And that's how we know that we're doing a good job. When Bahamians, everyday Bahamians, are celebrating the work that this government is doing.
You're referring to that man on the street, and that's why it's so important that people are sitting and watching, perhaps for the first time, truly, a budget communication and looking forward to the debate, because the things that really impact their lives and they want to see change in, that is what you heard in that news report that we had just in the newscast before this show began. Let's just talk about what was surprising. Many people are saying, where's that Golden Yolk program? it's happening.
Right.
And it's having an impact, it appears.
I don't want to run ahead of the Minister of Agriculture, because what the Prime Minister did today in the communication, and just so everyone can be clear, it was an overview of what is to come. And so each minister will approach their ministry and they will break down line item for line item what their ministries are doing. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but I can say what I've experienced in the grocery store. The fact that we've reduced value-added tax, again, at the grocery store and at the till, it's saving my constituents money, and it's also saving me money. And
I think it's a great thing. Firsthand from your constituents in Mount Moriah that, listen, this is making a difference.
It is a 100% complete difference in the way that the value-added tax was increased under the former administration, which was a 60% increase with absolutely no notice. They came into the House of Assembly and they made changes that impact us negatively without saying a word. I don't even think the grocers were aware of what was happening at that particular time. And so what we've decided on day one, and we made a commitment in the Blueprint for Change that we would reduce value-added tax. We did so. And we didn't stop there. We did it again. And the Prime Minister has tipped his hat that there may be some other cuts coming for the Bahamian people. So this narrative that we've been taxing when there's the elephant in the room against that argument that there's been significant reductions in value-added tax, which not only impacts blue-collar workers, but it also assists the middle class as well.
It does.
And so
well,
it's very complete in its approach.
Let's go there. You kind of jumped ahead of me, but that's fine because that ties right in. I remember, I think it was the end of last year or perhaps the year before, Prime Minister Davis met with very affluent residents in Lyford Key, talking about, listen, this shrinking middle class and how the wealth gap is widening. There is a focus, as he mentioned, he gave an overview, as you said, to be able to strengthen and then expand the middle class.
I think the man on the street says it this way: the rich get richer and the poor gets poorer. And we have to then break that down. And when we break that down, we realize that there are monopolies in our country, monopolies that have stranglehold the economy for decades and decades, unrelentingly. And the difference between this administration and the former administration, when those living behind pearly silver gates decided that they were being taxed or that there was something that they disliked, they sent a letter and that was reversed. But in this administration, we have a Prime Minister who's looking them eye to eye and saying things must change, and it must change now. I won't get ahead of you, but we also see it in Grand Bahama when the Prime Minister, he's a KC, so he's going to say it a little bit more smoother than I would say, but he said pay up and pay up now. And that's approximately $300 million that was owed to the Bahamian people that this administration is going after. And so what I want the Bahamian people to know is that this is a comprehensive approach to governance, and this is how you get a surplus. It doesn't happen overnight. Great things doesn't happen by accident.
Not by accident, huh? No. Very strategic all along, trying to pull this together. Speaking of the balanced budget, let's talk about BTVI. Let's talk about the fact that there is a working deficit in this country, or perhaps finding good qualified, skilled people even, because construction now is something so different than it was just 10 years ago. BTVI is expanding. In fact, there are new campuses right now in South Eleuthera, in Abaco, and perhaps elsewhere that I'm not aware of. Talk about the move to be able to take BTVI or training or upskilling to people not just here in New Providence or Grand Bahama, but elsewhere.
Education is key. It's always been the greatest proponent of changing where you are on the social rung. It's been the key for me. Being able to be educated and have an education. And not only is it reflected in what we're doing at BTVI, but it's also reflected at the public service level. You hear the Minister of Public Service and Labor speaking about upskilling. And there has always been this argument about whether or not retirees are coming back. But it's because there hasn't been a continuation and training of appropriate individuals who are able to take their spot. And so the fact of the matter is, this administration is taking such a comprehensive approach. Over 50 industrial agreements signed, which focuses on work, which is work. And this is how the economy grows, through work, and adding more and more people into the economy through work. And like I said earlier, you cannot borrow your way to success. You have to grow your way to success, and you have to take your people along the journey.
What's the response to these expanded campuses and new presence of BTBI already?
Well, in my constituency, people are very hopeful. They can see that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And, you know, when you start to lose hope is when we start to lose our young men, our young women. And the Prime Minister talked about today in the House of Assembly, we don't want there to be brain drain, but we want there to be brain gain. And so we want to gain those young people. We want them to be a part of our economy. And to do so, we have to provide access. This government is all about access. And I started off by talking about the hospitals. That's access. By providing increase in minimum wage.
So the FNM says, listen, fantastic, you're all building hospitals, you're all building even high-end health centers. Who's going to fill them?
Bahamian people, the sick. And
who's going to fill them in terms of staff and human resources?
Well, listen, we expect them to take that approach. They said that we would not be able to increase minimum wage, and we did so. And governments are all about challenges. We didn't run away from the challenges. We faced those challenges. And we expect them to say what they're saying. And we are going to satisfy those challenges and ensure that we have properly staffed those institutions.
Well, it's very important as well to have that done. Now,
we have 5,000 students coming out of school every year.
Every year.
We have a workforce.
Yeah.
And so the point is we have to unleash Bahamian exceptionalism.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to guide it through public policies. That's what we're here for as legislators. We see the issues, we see the problems, we don't run from them, but we actually, we improve it. We come up with solutions to improve the lives of our citizens. So we're not going to say that, we're not going to stick with the situation that we have with Princess Margaret Hospital and say, we throw our hands up in the air and say, how are we going to staff it? We're going to find a way. That's the approach that I would say the former administration took with COVID and Dorian, and we're not them. Well, the PLV.
I certainly think the working Bahamians love to hear that, because everybody is looking for an opportunity either to have an increase in salary, another opportunity, a new venture, whatever it is. This, though, is very, very important, and this administration has been hit very hard for this, and that is emergency response. The Prime Minister talked about acquiring new fire engines, for example, which is needed on every island in this country. That's very important, right? Is it that he mentioned in terms of outfitting the police, the fire services, all of that?
And you see that reflective in the millions of dollars that is allocated towards that. And that will be broken down by the Minister of National Security in short order. He will speak to that, and I will allow him to speak to that. But what I'm here to do is to provide context. And the context was, when we came to office, when we talk about emergency services, we're talking also about the police officers as well.
Yes.
And when we came to office, there were some family islands where police officers was renting vehicles to go to crime scenes.
What'd you say?
Renting vehicles to get to crime scenes. This was in 2021.
Where was this happening?
On the family islands.
Man, listen, I know listen, I know it's election season, but you don't have to stretch it on that level.
Man, I said that in the House of Assembly, and I dare them to rebut it.
Wow.
It occurred.
The police renting vehicles, go ahead.
And so the fact of the matter is, we are navigating the challenges. These aren't easy challenges, and we're not rushing it. And we're doing it in a way that keeps our economy going and in a comprehensive approach. And so we understand that there needs to be fire trucks. There are more fire trucks. Obviously, the Minister of National Security is going to speak to that. And I'm sure that when he speaks to it, he will address that.
Now, the FNM says this budget doesn't cut it. How do you respond to that?
What do you expect them to say? Surplus? What do you expect them to say? A balanced budget? What do you expect them to say? And so they've been doom and gloom from the beginning of our administration, and we've proven them wrong at every single turn. Shanique, you've been in this business for a long time. Look at them in the opposition room. Look at them in the minority room. Sad, depressed, melancholy, sullen. They might as well just throw in the white flag now and just give this one up.
Just give it up. I have to ask my next guest if they start sullen and vexed.
And see, what we talk about is governance is not political slogans. They are expecting the Bahamian people to be angry and upset. and vitriolic. But this is governance. This is not about hate. This is not about anger. Come with a comprehensive, cogent plan and show that to the Bahamian people. But they're devoid of that.
What does this do for the confidence of this administration, you think? Just hearing what the people said on the news and then what this budget is you just talked about?
We are confident in bringing relief to the Bahamian people. That's where our confidence lies. That is our foundation. That is our guardrail. And as long as we do that, we will be successful.
Well, when we come back, he is opposition whip in the House, Adrian White. He comes up and he's going to respond to Barnaby here and also give the opposition's response to the 2025-2026 budget. We're back right after this.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is now City of Hope, creating one of the leading cancer care and research networks from coast to coast, providing more of what you need. More locations means more care closer to home. More specialists means more expertise. More research means more breakthroughs. More advancements means more treatment options. And more options means more hope. Call now to get more of the care you need.
Comfort Suites Paradise Island is the best-kept secret in the Bahamas. Located directly next door to the Atlantis Resort, you'll receive all the privileges of an Atlantis guest with all the benefits of a Comfort Suite stay. Enjoy everything Atlantis has to offer, including Aquaventure Water Park, plus all the amenities of Comfort Suites. Free Wi-Fi, free breakfast daily, and kids stay, play, and eat free. Visit ComfortSuitesPI.com.
Nowadays, tiles trend like fashion, and Grand Bahama Tiles leads the way with trendy and classic styles from North and South America, Europe, and Asia. Imagine your home with natural stone, elegant marble, sleek porcelain, earthy granite, or slate. Grand Bahama Tiles has it all. They even export to the Family Islands. Maybe it's time to update your style, get the look, and transform your space with the latest tiles trending at Grand Bahama Tiles.
Measles is on the rise around the world, and the Bahamas is at risk,
which makes us very vulnerable as a nation for the possible outbreak of measles cases.
Every Saturday in May from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., the Ministry of Health and Wellness will host MMR immunization visits in South Beach, Coconut Grove, Fox Hill, and Elizabeth Estates. Clinics in these areas will remain open until 8 p.m. twice per week. Get your child immunized now.
7.5 years, but I walk in here all of a sudden, total stranger. I'm calling you Rick and Sheila like.
I win. At Island Lock, we take sports seriously. Get ready to experience the thrill of winning, anytime and any place. Bet in real time and live the thrill of every play while watching your winnings stack up. It's your chance to score big with fast payouts and a world-class experience. Get in the game and bet the Bahamian way with Island Luck Sportsbook.
If you enjoy watching Beyond the Headlines, take advantage of our exclusive offers with 4 15-minute interview segments at $1,200 and 20 30-second TV ads at $2,000. Contact 557-0258 or 557-0259 for more information. Go beyond with Beyond the Headlines.
This segment of Beyond the Headlines is brought to you by EV Motors. Drive the future with brand new 2024 electric vehicles. EV Motors, powering your journey.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. It's good to have you join us this evening. Of course, we're spending considerable time talking about the budget communication, the 2025-2026 budget communication that was delivered in the House of Assembly this morning by Prime Minister Davis. Well, the government has announced a number of firsts. For example, a balanced budget is what they're touting, and saying that it's a people-focused budget. Well, The F&M begs to differ. Joining me in this segment is the leader of opposition business in the House of Assembly and St. Anne's MP, Adrian White. Good evening to you, Mr. White. It's good to have you here. Long time no see. Let's just get into it. The opposition has said, and I want to ask, how does the opposition define this budget that's been described as the people's budget? What words would you use for it?
We'll hear a lot during the upcoming debate from the members of the opposition, but in my opinion, this is a bucket list budget. You have a prime minister who's achieved everything. He's now prime minister. This is not saying that they've achieved a balanced budget now or that they have a surplus budget, but that they're predicting in the future, at the end of the next year, they will see a surplus, they will see a balanced budget. It's not the first time, but surely a gentleman of the prime minister's age would love to say, in my political career, which has spanned decades, I've achieved a balanced budget, one that very few in the history of our Commonwealth since independence has done. In fact, there was a balanced budget reported by Sir William Allen on the 2001-2002 budget. So
this is not the first time?
This is technically not the first time. And as I said, it's not been achieved.
But you're trying to suggest as though like the housing bubble of 2008 is sort of built on that. It's like on a bubble. You're basically trying to say.
I wouldn't even say it's on a bubble. There isn't anything besides what they put on paper. And my grandmother would say, paper can stand still and let you write anything on it. And if you get a young man that practices his lines well enough, he can repeat what's on the paper as well.
Well, let's look at some of the things that's been announced in the budget. You heard me speak with Mr. Barnaby in the first segment, and talking about the fact that certain things like butane gas, I don't know if the majority of your constituents would relate to that. Maybe at the last minute when the gas goes out, they pull that out. But things like that, there's the 45% VAT or tax duty is going to be wiped out, and tax reductions in other areas. How do you respond to that?
It's a example of the sad state that our economy is in, and I do experience it in my constituency. We actually have a butane portable stove in our constituency office. When we try to make a hot meal for someone that hasn't eaten in days, we'll use a butane canister, which is what they've done the reduction on. I have family members in my family that prefer to use the butane countertop stoves because it's less expensive than the gas. But what Bahamian household in this year shouldn't have a gas cylinder at the back of their house that they're using to stock their supply and cook in the oven, cook on the stovetop? Why are we still forcing people to choose only the option of cooking in a pot or in a pan? What standard of living is that? That's where this government has us, and that's what they want us to be happy about. They also want us to be happy about $3 eggs. That's not part of the Golden Yolk program. That's part of a importer that has found a less expensive source.
How is it not? I heard the Prime Minister mention the Golden Yolk program today, and you're saying that $3 decrease in eggs, that some of the eggs on the shelves, that's nothing to do with the Golden Yolk program?
Those eggs aren't coming from Bahamian farmers in the grocery store, so no, it has nothing to do with Bahamian Golden Yolk program. Those eggs are being imported. The Prime Minister boasted that we're importing more, and he wanted to change the direction of that boast by saying that's an indication that our economy is doing better. We have enough money to actually be importing more. That's a disgrace. If you look at where the money is coming from, it's coming from the collection of VAT. Value-added tax from consumer purchases have gone up by 500 million every year for the past 3 years since they took VAT from 12% on some items and put it on 10% on all items. You have a wider net, you're catching more fish in that net. More fish in this case is more items that are being taxed. Right. $500 million more. I raised this in the House. No one said a thing after I raised it. $500 million more a year. That's $1.5 billion that has been raised off the Bahamian backs on an annual. That's roughly $1,250 that every Bahamian household has seen an increase on their purchases since the PLP administration reduced VAT to 10%, but put it on every single thing.
Has the recent reduction to 5% made a difference, or is it making a difference as far as you are hearing among your constituents?
No. Obviously, there's going to be a slight difference, but take me for example. I used to go grocery shopping. Now I go to the store to buy food. I don't even have the privilege of going to spend enough money that I can say can carry my household
Adrian
for
Wright,
a full week.
Adrian Wright,
That's
you were
the truth.
saying that you can no longer go to the food store and grocery shop in terms, and I know what you mean. You mean a full trolley of whatever it is.
Something that I would have taken for granted in past administrations. I can go to the grocery store, I can fill the trolley up with goods, I can get those items home. I know other people would have been struggling, but that's something that I would have been able to do as a professional earning a private income. Under this administration, the joy, the availability of making the similar size purchases has vanished. And now I go to buy food that can last me maybe 2 or 3 days at a time. And that's for a family of 3. My oldest son is away at college, so he's not even eating out of the house now. But that's just a reality. And look at it. The PLP administration isn't hiding it. They're telling you they're going to reduce VAT on butane or customs duties on butane tanks because they want you sitting there twisting a little tiny can in your kitchen or in your backyard, wherever you are, and they want you thinking that the $3 eggs that are coming in are coming from Bahamian agricultural farms. The Golden Yolk program cannot stock our egg refrigerators in our grocery stores. It's not part of the Golden Yolk program.
What do you think
if anything, it's an import duty that they've given some concession on because they've not been able to do in 2 years, maybe 3 years, what they promised they were going to do as part of the big, sexy agricultural campaign.
Staying on eggs and agriculture, what do you think of the announcement by the Prime Minister to invest about $9 million to, I think it's well over 20,000 chicks. I think that's laying, I don't know the correct term, laying hens or chicks, to produce about 8,000 eggs per hour. What do you think about that plan in terms of shoring up food security and just that aspect of what we produce?
I'll be happy for when it does happen. I think they said that there was about 30,000 laying hens. These are going to be small chicks, basically, that you see on Sesame Street, little tiny birds. They take about 6 months to get to a size where they can actually lay eggs. They're likely Rhode Island red hens. Those are usually the best hens to produce the eggs. If BAMSI can make use of those in Andros, that'll be great. Everybody wants us to reduce our food production bill, our food import, to increase our food production in the Bahamas and increase our imports. But after 3 years, Golden Yolk program, people are looking at it and saying this is a Golden Joke program.
They're saying it's a Golden Joke program.
It's a joke so far. We don't hear anything. I mean, you have the second Minister of Agriculture now talking about the plant, the hatchery, coming out of the ground. I mean, we had a gentleman from Spanish Wells representing South Eleuthera saying that the hatchery was coming out of the ground. Before that hatchery came out of the ground, we saw Chinese flags down at the Gladstone Road farm. I don't know what we're more impressed with, a foreign flag hanging over our agricultural center, or actually a simple egg program where they produce enough feed for the eggs, they produce eggs, they supply farmers, farmers then supply the market. I haven't seen anything out there yet but a foreign flag.
Does this budget go far enough to bring about an easing of inflation and the impact on the average Bahamian household?
Not far enough, but I can't say that it's possible to take that step that will reduce the impact of inflation on Bahamian households. Going down to 5%, that's not up. They could have simply gone down to 10%. The Minister for National Security, they should have gone down to zero.
Okay.
They went from 10% to 5%. They should have taken it where the FNM had it to zero. And even then, things would have been tough under inflation. But a 5% difference is going to help. And there's no reason why they can't do it. Now, as I said before and earlier, they're collecting $500 million more in VAT. The member for Freetown, Minister of National Security, he said, with taxes, there's a sweet spot. So if you hit that sweet spot where you can keep collecting enough VAT and people keep spending, that's the perfect place. But it's not a perfect place, in my opinion, if we're collecting $1,250 more per household than we necessarily need to do. Give the people that break as well. Make sure that the sweet spot brings them back to the amount that they're contributing to the public treasury equal to when the FNM had it, not more.
If the FNM were elected today, what would it do differently in terms of food security?
Food security, we have an incoming Prime Minister in the Honorable Michael C. Pintard who excelled in the Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources, he ensured that Dominican fishers were kept off of our Bahama banks with hose and tank apparatus. This administration, when in opposition, had some of its members that are in government today as attorneys then fighting for those Dominicans to be given the right to get back on the seabeds. What we've seen is that some of those individuals that didn't have status before and were going to be prevented now have citizenship. All right, so that's one big step. Another big step is through agriculture, he ensured that there was a market for the farmers. So you have to have demand and supply. Demand comes from the resorts. There were percentages that each resort and each major importer would have to buy from local.
That was in place? That
Yep.
resorts were mandated to purchase locally first?
Correct. Honorable Michael C. Pintard and the last administration ensured that there was a minimum that had to be bought locally so long as we could supply it. So right there in a very brief period of time, we guaranteed a market. We just had to make a demand in the market. We just had to now meet the supply. And the Golden Yolk program is one step towards that. That won't be difficult to actually accomplish under the F&M. We have a track record from Ingram's time, proven to have made improvements and advancements in our country that actually change people's lives, whether it's access to open spaces. You got Saunders Beach, you got Gibbons Bay, you got Montague Bay. All of those breakwaters, dikes were put up there. Bahamians have loved them since then. You had the Minister for Marathon at the time was saying that the dikes on Saunders Beach were going to destroy the environment. No such thing. Yet you just had the Minister for Parks and Beaches in here a few minutes ago, and I don't confront people on things necessarily that they should be able to see with their own eyes. But go have a look at Saunders Beach and tell me that the whole beach hasn't now come over and covered the walking path that is used for Bahamians recreation. And tell me that the first 2 to 3 sections of that beach closest to Ararat Key are not completely now only rock. No one's paying attention to a number of the things that the F&M put in place, and that's the way it always goes, in my opinion. You have the F&M administration come in, they accomplish things, and then you let PLP administrations come in, and they allow things to dilapidate.
How would an F&M administration handle these trade wars in terms of this administration is try to go around it and go to other destinations to import and obviously while shoring up at home food security, but how would an F&M administration handle the trade wars that's impacting economies, including the United States?
Yeah, well, it's down to diplomatic relations. It's down to acknowledging that the people come before your party, for instance, and the representations that you make on the global stage have an impact on the goals and objectives that you have locally. So we have these trade wars. Everybody's concerned that the U.S. president is going to lock us out. But as time has gone on, through simple conversations, we've seen that there have been exceptions given for the national country, our Bahamas. Originally, there was this fear that we were going to have prices go up because vessels coming in that were made in China would face a $1 million penalty. Everybody panicked. Why panic? Just go and talk to the people you need to talk to. And sure enough, that penalty was waived for the Bahamas.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's all about prioritizing the people in the nation first, and not panicking when you're out on the international scene. And what is the actual government importing? So when you talked about the government going around finding other sources to import from, it's really the people that are in the import business. Mm-hmm. You know, the people that are supplying the shelves.
They're the ones that are importing, and this is. But I interviewed those people that you spoke about, and this is all a part of some trade commission that they go and they assist and hold merchants' hands or try and open the door and set the scene so that they can go and access and bring these products in that Bahamians like.
As it should be. I think it would be good to see exactly what has been accomplished because of government intervention and what has been accomplished because of the basics of economics, the demand, the supply, and the consistency of that demand and the request from suppliers.
Is there any good thing in this budget communication that you can pinpoint and say, you know what, this government is going in the right direction in this regard?
I think it's the last budget before the election, so that's the good thing about it. One more, and then we're done.
Adrian White, you always on it. No wonder you are a leader of opposition business.
And Shanique, I wanted to give you these. I got them from your store next door. Some Fox Mints. I know everybody likes a good Fox Mint, and I saw the Fox Foundation today talking about the entrepreneurship program for women. So I thought it was fitting for such a
thank you, Adrian.
Great leader
Thank you so
yourself.
much. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been a minute since you've been here sitting next to me. He came with gifts. Now, Mikhail said he loves the show and it's a great show and all that, but
That's the difference.
But you bought gifts.
That's the difference.
Wow. Listen to me.
Three wise men who
yes.
They came bearing gifts.
Bearing gifts. Adrian, you know what? I don't know. I think you may have won. I'm not sure yet. But listen, by the way, thank you. Good speaking with you this evening. The Free National Movement's response on the 2025-2026 budget communication presented in Parliament today by Prime Minister Davis. Well, when we come back, I'm gonna share out some of these mints. That's right, even with the guys in the back. By the way, all y'all come. Shadi, Justin, Chance, Carlisle, y'all come for y'all mint. I'll give Leslie and Ellington one. And then, of course, we'll talk some more when we come back right after the break.
The internet isn't just for surfing. There's a sea of shoppers buying online, and you can connect with them on Tingsy. Tingsy is the SBDC's online storefront built for Bahamians. Take your business to the next level by selling to customers online, both at home and around the world. People want Bahamian things, and if you got things to sell, sell on Tingsy. Find out how you can connect with a sea of buyers by visiting tingsybahamas.com.
My name is Omar Ferguson. I've been disabled now from 2009. What inspired me to start my own business? It was the determination to know that I still had something left in me, even though a lot of my independence, my mobility was being restricted. In my disability, it's kind of hard finding the investors or the capital. For example, national insurance. The benefit that we receive, it's a lifeline. And in any business that you're gonna take, it's gonna be a risk. We're not looking for handouts, but we want you to understand that we still need a little special care. This literally gives us a backbone that, hey, we could actually stand someday. The business, I know, it's gonna be a risk. Even going through that process, I'm still dependent on national insurance. Overall, being in the program itself, it's put me in a place where I feel young again. I feel like anything is possible. I would say to others with disabilities, look around your community, just like you guys said in one of the modules. See what is needed in your community and go for it. Don't be afraid, just go for it.
For more information about how the SBDC can help your small business to make a big impact, give us a call at 461-7232 or visit sbdcbahamas.com.
So you want a space, but not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience, with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?
If you enjoy watching Beyond the Headlines, take advantage of our exclusive offers with 4 15-minute interview segments at $1,200 and 20 30-second TV ads at $2,000. Contact 557-0258 or 557-0259 for more information. Go beyond with Beyond the Headlines.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. It's good to have you here. Of course, can you believe I've shared those mints out already, but it was wonderful speaking with Mikhail Barnaby and, of course, in the segment that just went before the break, Adrian White. And now we're going to jump into some opinions and hear exactly what many of you are thinking. I asked the panelists, I said, listen, go around, speak to some people, hear what they're thinking. Of course, I spoke with Delano in the newsroom after he did his man on the street to get opinions from just anyone, just random people. And you all saw that in the news before the show started. But I'm going to hear what other people are saying and what's the feedback and the sort of the highlights for these gentlemen and the people they spoke with today of the budget communication. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines, Leslie Miller and Ellington Ferguson, my contributors here on Beyond the Headlines. It's good to have you both here. Good evening once again.
Good evening, Shanique. Good evening, Bahamas. Thank you for this privilege once again.
Now, gentlemen, of course, you heard from Beaches and Parks Chairman Mikhail Barnaby. You heard from the leader of opposition business in the House, Adrian White. Different points of view, obviously, one as government, one as opposition. But what are you hearing from the average person on the street, even when you listened to the budget yourself today? What were your takeaways and what stood out?
Well, Shanique, as I listened intently for the time that I was able to the budget today, I think I hear deliberation from the Prime Minister. I hear him being deliberate in what it is that his administration is intending to do. I think the Prime Minister and the Progressive Liberal Party has often talked about their need to do a second term. I think he is really pushing to demonstrate hard to the Bahamian people why he should be given a second term. I think he put forth a very compelling budget. And as you look to the things that they've promised to do, all of them have not come to fruition yet, but you can begin to see some things taking shape here in the country of the things that they plan to do, from energy and to the sale of the Alukaya. The Freeport is now getting some initiatives happening there on Grand Bahama. And so you can see some things coming together, and this budget speaks to a continuation of all of that as we go into this next year, 2026, which is an election year. You see the Prime Minister touting, and the real part of the conversation is not merely of a balanced budget, but what it is speaking to is a surplus budget that they are planning towards.
Well, that's key, surplus. And you know, people said, I spoke with several people, I mean, people who are smarter than me, you know, particularly in matters of finance. And they said, what this means, Shanique, is when you say a balanced budget, they are not at this point deficit spending. And based on what is projected to come into the economy, I guess things that are already signed and on the books, this is where the surplus, they're looking at this surplus.
Right, absolutely. And so, yes, Minister for Opposition Business in the House, Adrian White, he spoke to it and he said, yes, there have been a balanced budget before on the Sir William Allen. But this speaks not merely, it doesn't stop at a balanced budget, it goes to a surplus, like you alluded to. And so once all of their plans and all of the revenues come in that they expected, and God forbid that we don't have any extra circumstances, a hurricane or any natural disasters come in, and they can get all of the revenues coming and everything happen. I think this can be a banner year for the country. And normally within an election year, it is quite normal to go have huge deficit and go way over budget. So this is very interesting to see. It's the heavy lifting, and it's a very aggressive move for the Prime Minister. And it's good for the country once these initiatives can come off.
Very insightful budget. I think it's a budget really for the common man, trying to bring down the cost of living. Again, I said the most problematic situation in the country right now is the high cost of living and the cost of rental apartments. Housing is very, very, very expensive. I met a young lady night before last, one of the major restaurants in the country. She stopped me and said, Mr. Miller, could I speak to you for 2 minutes? She has 2 kids living out of her car, and she has 2 jobs, one with the government, to one of the schools, and one at one of the major restaurants in this country. And it's a very painful experience. I think this budget is an insightful one to assist the needy. More funds have been put into the system to allow the welfare department to do a better job, to try to assist more Bahamians in getting on their feet. I think the type of person that the Prime Minister is, it gives you an insight as to where he came from, through Roll Avenue of Wolf Road, growing up in a regular area, we call it back then, that's 60 years ago, right? Off Wolf Road. I think he felt the pain of the average Bahamian in this country. And this budget is moving towards that end. We've been through some difficult times over the last 4.5 years of the previous government. It was interesting to listen to Mr. White when he indicated the great job that the leader of the opposition did as Minister of Agriculture. And I was surprised because that was news to me, because I've heard of nothing that he really did. In fact, I was the former Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources before he got there. And the first thing I did when I became Minister was to slash the take of the foreign fishermen, the so-called recreation fishermen, by 50%. And of course, many of them were shocked. And as soon as the FNM won, he, as Minister, put it back to enable the foreign fishermen, not the foreign fishermen, but the foreign so-called sports fishermen, to take most of our goods out of our country. The UN did a study, and it shows that the so-called recreation fishermen takes more fish out of the Bahamian waters than the whole system of fisheries in our country. And then he indicated the stellar job that he did as Minister of Youth and Sports. Well, so much leaves to be desired in that ministry under his watch. I wouldn't even go there. So, you can be critical, but you should be objective, and you should be fair-minded. The average people today has seen that a lot of pressure has been taken off of them. That's the average people. As I speak to everybody, speak to people every day. They feel a sense of goodness in the country. They believe that better days are ahead of us. I think this budget is heading towards that direction.
Well, I want to tell you, gentlemen, both of you, I too tried to call around many, not just here in New Providence, Grand Bahama and Eleuthera, just to hear people's feedback. And Grand Bahama in particular responded right away. I mean, several people, and talked about how this was a budget that was being applauded by many of them, not just based on what's happening and what's in the pipeline for Grand Bahama, but just to hear what some of the plans are that people gathered today and in passing and all that, just talked about it, were quite happy for what they heard.
Absolutely, Shanique. And let me go back to something that you mentioned. I think you mentioned it with the Honorable Mikhail Bonamy. And it's interesting that this government seek to put that in there. And I got to sing their praises on that. That thing that they call the butane gas or fuel. Let me tell you, that is something that people normally use in an emergency situation. Your gas run out.
Adrian said people in his constituency use it as well.
Okay, your gas run out, and then so you got to use that until you get the tank of gas because you want to finish cooking. So until you get your gas tomorrow or something of that sort. Recently, Shanique, that is a norm for many here in the Bahamas. And I want to speak to that People, they don't have a gas stove really, and they can't afford those tank of gas. So that's an everyday normal use for many people.
So to take that 45%
absolutely
tax off of that customs duty, that's a major deal.
Yeah. And I want to appeal, as major of a deal as that is to help. See, right there, when you do that, you immediately touching a sector of the poor in our country. I want to appeal to some of the food stores that sell those stuff, and wherever sell the hardware stores. Match the government. Take one couple cents off of it from your end, from your profit,
the biggest
and
problem
help these people.
For you that we've had over the last 40 years being in and out of Parliament. Every year there's been a reduction. This year there's a massive reduction on most of the goods that we use in our daily lives, especially the food and what have you. The problem is the importers and distributors don't follow the government suit and bring the cost down to show the people that the government has implemented these new programs to assist them.
And
I think it's wrong.
It's not only limited to VAT. The government has also lowered some things on customs duty. You've got to give them that.
No, it's a lot of things that we have to flesh out. I want to ask you guys about the whole upskilling and trying to get Bahamians where they ought to be to take advantage of this. What is a new burgeoning economy that this, like, it's just shifting. You all see the shifting of this economy. It's expanding. It's becoming more diverse. Even though we call for diversity, but you see it's taking shape right before our eyes. And if you don't jump in right now, in whichever area, and even create your own thing, you will be left behind. But I want to say, going back to housing, Leslie, and why it's so important what housing is doing. A lady reached out to me this morning and said that there's a woman living off Carmichael. She is in a wheelchair. Her mother lives with her. Imagine what that is. And that the house is in horrible state. I was so happy to be able to reach out to Urban Renewal in Housing, Ministry of Housing today, and they immediately, and I didn't even know the person, but we all fought to try and get them, get their attention. We all fought to try and say, listen. And so I just want to say, this is what's being done, touching the everyday Bahamian that need the help, that need to have their houses repaired, that need to be able to afford butane gas. And let's talk about, the Prime Minister singled out men. I think he even identified a couple hundred men to try and get them trained and skilled. But also the fact that this upskilling is going to be available to whoever desires by the expansion of BTVI that we see happening already.
Absolutely, and I think that is commendable. Normally our young men is left to the side, and to hear the Prime Minister giving specific mention to this and about their training, I think that's what, and I think some months ago Leslie spoke about it in the trade school that he was looking to introduce. BTVI. We need to look at and go wholeheartedly and deliberately about training our young men, retraining. We talk about when we have projects in this country that we don't have the necessary skills, so we have to bring in these foreign laborers. I think anytime we do that now, I don't mind us bringing in an expat to put this expat in BTVI, this particular skill that we don't have. The next time a project come here, we can have some of these young men that can do this.
Remember, that's what he said, and that's the game. The game plan is to get enough Bahamian men skilled in what's needed in construction nowadays, so that very soon you don't have to go and import construction workers.
I had a conversation today with one of the main firms that produce concrete in this country. And I was alarmed when he said to me, Leslie, when you go on television, please let the people know that from my experience in the industry for the last year or so, we've had more foreigners, contractors, small contractors or subcontractors coming in here than Bahamians, and it bothered him that many of our contractors are not working, and the foreigners have all the major jobs.
But why aren't they working? Because they're falling behind in skills?
No, not falling behind in skills, because there's such a glut of foreign workers in the country today, especially those subcontractors. Nobody never leaves the Bahamas, The guy comes in and dies. You can't get him once he gets in. He gets a week permit, that's it for life. The people who work on the major construction sites like Bahama, Paradise Island, most of them are still here.
Never return.
They don't leave. And it's wrong, because it's hurting our young fellas in the industry who can't get up to the top of the ladder or midway in the industry.
Well, I know. I'm happy to hear about the BTVI expansion, because I know for a fact that many of them lack the skills of what's required nowadays for construction. Now, just get your work ethic to match that. and you'll be okay.
And a trade school.
But listen, and a trade school.
Absolutely.
But we are obviously going to take our time with each minister as they speak and talk about their portfolio and what's ahead for the next fiscal year. We certainly will, of course, those things that are really important to you, to your quality of life and improving your life, we will take some time and look at them. And if I can have that minister here or some representative, I'll do that as well. But certainly, of course, so that you are well aware of what's being discussed and what's on the drawing board for you. I thank you all very much. I thank, of course, at the top of tonight's show, the Chairman of Beaches and Parks, Mikhail Barnaby, and Member of Parliament from Mount Moriah. In the middle of the show, we had the Opposition Leader of Business, Adrian White, Member of Parliament for St. Anne's. And of course, here in no, people enjoyed them, by the way. They really enjoyed hearing both of them.
The cost of food hasn't gone up nowhere near what he's talking about.
No, the cost of food has really gone down. It's gone down. It really has. However, and thank you both very much, Leslie Miller and Ellington Ferguson, my contributors. Good to have you both here as well. And thank all of you for tuning in this evening. I certainly enjoyed having you along, and I look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow evening. For the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a great evening, everyone.